danger, or we shall be conquered. Conquered we should be, if you would please.
The thing I don't like about is writing speeches when I don't have anything to write about. We have already improved our writing skills by writing essays every day. We have improved our reading skills by reading at least an hour. So why should we write speeches or essays?
I think the school should make up a whole new set of rules. For the first thing, we should have more recess time, because if we want to play a game like baseball, it takes long, and they have a crummy kid up at bat who can't hit and he doesn't swing, and it'll take longer. For the second thing, lunch prices should go down to 25 cents, and milk prices should go down to 3 cents. For the fourth thing, we shouldn't have so much work, because we have enough work already.
I think a school should be a school, not a place for fun and games. And I think the kids should do what they're told to do and not be fresh. And if kids break windows, I think they should be suspended. Thank you.
6 years ago, we got a new president. His name was Richard M. Nixon. He hasn't done much except make a lot of money, and hasn't given much money to the charity, and he hasn't helped us much except he did something in Israel to make it better, and he does a lot of speeches. The speeches usually are half true, and half of what he says is really true. On Watergate, everyone thinks he did it. When he goes up to make a speech about it, he really gets scared, I think, that he knows he's guilty, but he doesn't want to show he's guilty. I hope in a couple of years we get a new president, and a really good one.
This school is a regular school, working and stuff like that. Without these kinds of schools, where the kids decide on what they think is right is wrong. Adults are smarter and know better than kids do. Without these kinds of schools, they do not get taught. With these right schools, they can function better with their own grade. Thank you.
Recess isn't long enough. We go to school for 6 hours and we only have a half hour for both recesses and 20 minutes for lunch. Music, art, and gym are only a half hour, and each one only comes once a week, but some people play instruments. And on rainy days when we don't have an outdoor recess, we don't get the second one in the afternoon. Yeah. Sometimes the aides don't know what they're talking about, because some kids go up to them and tell them what other kids do, what they do, and they blame it on some other kids, and then the other kids get in trouble.
Don't you really get sick of when teachers give you a lot of work when you're not feeling well and when you're tired? Well, I really do. I think they treat you like babies in this school. They don't let you do certain things, which I think you should be allowed to do because you're old enough. You're in the 4th grade, and I think that's the way it should be. The end.
We have to stop pollution. It has ruined waters and it's ruined picnic grounds. And if you don't stop it now, it can kill some people.
I really am against many things. My father was talking to me about the Syrians and the Arabs fighting against the Israelis last night, and practically for nothing. I am against the energy crisis. Everyone probably is. It is funny of King Faisal to stop giving us oil. We might help Israel. Even if we did help them, I'm sure that America imports something to Arabia too. I'm against the world wars. Germany and Japan really had no right to want to take over the world. But they did have a growing population. I hope I don't get caught in any world wars like those. I'll never forget when the recent war was over. A lot of bells were ringing, and people were shouting the war is over, the end.
When Nixon got in office, everybody hated him, but when he got voted in, like last year, everybody started hating him. But when he got in office, everybody just started liking him because he let the POWs out and everything. The end.
I think that school's right. We're lucky to have 20-minute recess twice, and that we don't have more work. Like some kids say, oh, we get too much work, and it's hardly any.
I think the school prices should be lower, much lower. It's about 35 cents. When it went up to 40, it was too much. My mother said the prices are too high, so I can't buy lunch as much as I used to. And also, I think the school should get lots more equipment, like football equipment and basketball and all that equipment.
I think we should have more recess because they don't give us enough time for recess. And when it's snowing out and it's too bad to go to school, I don't think we should make up for it.
I really, really want a horse, but my mother says you have to feed it, give the horse a stable, groom the horse, and care for the horse. It's just too expensive. If my mother and father allowed me to have a horse, I'd feed it, give the horse a stable, care for it, and give it tender, loving care. I'm really not horsing around.
I think that the fourth graders at the Heights Elementary School should have special privileges. They should be able to tell the low grade children how to behave. On a sunny day, they should be able to have their lunch outdoors. They should be able to go to the library whenever they wish. They should be able to make suggestions to help the school. They should be able to suggest menus for lunch. They should raise money to buy a farewell gift to benefit the school. Each student should vote on this gift. We should also have a farewell party.
I think they should put better shows on Sunday. In the morning, they only have a few good cartoons. And in the afternoon, they only have boring movies. On Saturday, they have good cartoons on to like 1:30 in the afternoon. But on Sunday, they only last till 10 o'clock in the morning. On a rainy day, and you have to stay in, what can you do? There's no good television shows on. And you feel like watching television, so there's only boring movies on.
I think all of America should stop pollution because it's making our whole America icky. So if like the clouds, instead of them being white, they'd be all black and icky. So I think everybody should put their own garbage away in a rubbish pail, and then whenever they see garbage, put it away.
Once there was these three Germans. They came from Germany. They didn't know any English. They went over to America. They were just Germans. So one of them went into a candy shop and learned goody goody gumdrops. And then the other one went into an orchestra and learned me, 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 me. And another one went into a restaurant and learned knives and forks, knives and forks. So that night there was a murder. And a police officer came and said, did any of you three see what happened? And then the first one goes, the police officer goes, who did it? And then the guy that went to the orchestra said, me, 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 me. And then the second guy that did it said, the police officer goes, what'd you do it with? And then the second guy goes, knives and forks, knives and forks. And then
he goes, "You're all going." The police officer goes, "You're all going to jail." And then the third guy goes, "Goody goody gumdrops." And so, okay, now I have a riddle. What's round and purple and lives in the sea? Moby grape. That's it.
Sunday, when we went to my Aunt Barbara's, my brother said, "What are you, a barbarian?" What happens to people who eat bullets? They get bangs. Last night I had a dream I was eating a giant marshmallow, and when I woke up, the pillow was gone. Last night I had a dream that I went up in a plane, and the plane was flying in the air, and then all of a sudden the engine fell off, and they were flying on three engines, and the plane was tipped, and I was near the window, and all of a sudden the window cracks, and I was holding on, and I just barely managed to stay in the window, and then when I woke, then I fell asleep on the plane, and when I woke up, there was no one on the plane, and there wasn't even a pilot. The plane was just flying by itself.
There once was two astronauts that were riding in a rocket. Unfortunately, one of them fell out. Fortunately, there was a big pile of leaves below him. Unfortunately, there was a rock in the pile of leaves. Fortunately, he missed the rock. Unfortunately, he missed the pile of leaves.
Once two boys named Trouble and Shut Up. Trouble went inside, and the policeman came along. The policeman said, "What's your name?" And the boy said, "Shut up." And the policeman said, "You want to go down to the office? You're asking for trouble?" "No, my name's Shut Up." And Shut Up's in the store. So the policeman took the boy down to the police station, and the officer said, "What's your name?" And the boy said, "Shut Up." So put them in jail.
There were these houses and a camp, and in one house there was a minister, a priest, and a rabbi, and so you weren't supposed to play cards. So the Germans and a German marshal and a general came in, and they go, "You playing cards?" He goes, "You playing cards?" And he goes to the priest, and he goes, "Oh, Jesus, forgive me." "No." And then he goes to the minister, "You playing cards?" And he goes, "Oh, Lord, forgive me." And then he goes, "Nope." And then he goes to the rabbi, "Are you playing cards?" And then the rabbi goes, "With whom?"
One of those two hotheads are always ready to fight things out. You know what it is? Volcano. Good thing to eat right after supper. Breakfast. Let's see. They're working right when they're eating. Teeth.
Well, this Jew walks in this Chinese restaurant, and he asks, "Sir, do you have any Chinese juice?" And he goes, "No, we have apple juice and tomato juice and orange juice, but no Chinese juice." And this kid was in school, and the teacher says to him, "Find as many words as you could find." So he goes out, and these kids are fighting. So he says, "Do you have any words?" And one of the kids said, "Shut up." So then he sees these guys playing cowboys and Indians. And he goes, "Do you have any words?" And the Indian goes, "Woo!" And that's what's so funny. And then he sees these kids, he's walking along, he sees these kids playing Superman. He goes, "Do you have any words so I could use?" And he goes, "They're playing Superman." So he goes, "Superman!" He's looking up and he says, "Superman." And then he goes back, and the teacher says, "Do you have any, what are your words?" And he goes, "Shut up." He goes, "You want to go down to the office?" "Woohoo!"
Who do you think you are? Superman! Thank you.
How can you feed a horse with an overcoat? Take out the oats. Why is smile the longest word in the world? It has a mile in it. What's so curious about the word shaped? It has an ape in it. What do you find once in the room but twice in the corner? R. What goes up to the door but does not come in? Steps. What do you do if you see a lion? Hope the lion did not see you.
What's a stupid person and a flower? A blooming idiot. Speaking of idiots, as a joke about an idiot ghost, once a lady was going into a hotel and she said, "Is there room for rent?" And the man said, "Yes, but 3 people have already died from it because the ghost of White Eyes lives there." So she went up to the room and she said, "I'm not afraid of ghosts." So in the middle of the night, the ghost says, "I am the ghost of White Eyes." And she gets up and she jumps out of the windows. And for about 3 times that happened. And then a little girl and her mother came in and said, "Is there room for rent?" And the man says, "Yes, but 4 people have already, about 6 people have already died from room because the ghost of White Eyes lives in there." And the little girl says, "I'm not afraid of ghosts." So in the middle of the night, the ghost says, "I am the ghost of White Eyes." And the girl says, "If you don't shut up and let Mother and I sleep, you're going to be the ghost of Black Eyes." And then, wait a second. I'm going to add a little Shakespeare into my speech. "Birdie, birdie in the sky, why did you drop that in my eye? Aren't you glad elephants don't fly?"
Once these 2 people went into a hotel and there was $12 on the table. And they were ready to take it, and all of a sudden this ghost says, "The ghost of the bloody fingers," and they ran away. And so then 5 kids came in, and they were all teenagers, and they were ready to take the money. And the ghost goes, "The ghost of the bloody fingers," and the 4 of them ran away. And then one of them stayed, and he was ready to take the $12. So the ghost says, "The ghost of the bloody fingers." And the teenager goes, "Hey man, you want Band-Aid?" Why did Silly Billy tiptoe across the medicine cabinet? He didn't want to wake up to sleeping pills.
What did the big rock say to the little rock? "I've got you cornered." Once there was these 3 German men. They came to America. None of them knew English. So one went to a candy store and learned goody goody gumdrops. One went to a concert and learned me, 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 me. One went to a restaurant and learned knife fork, knife fork. That night there was a murder, and the policeman came over and said, "Who did it?" "Me, me, 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 me." And the policeman goes, "How'd you do it?" "Knife fork, knife fork. You're all going to jail. Goody goody gumdrops."
What are the fattest letters in the alphabet? P-I-G. What is green and lives in the sea? Moby Pickle.
Well, once this lady, she ran out of gas, and there was no gas station in miles. So she went to this hotel, and she said, "Is there room for rent?" And she said, "Well, there's only one, but there's a haunt in it." So she went upstairs, and there was some money on the table. And she was about to pick it up, and she heard, "I'm the ghost of Abel Cable. Put the money on that table." So she put it down, and she jumped out of the window. And then this man came in, and the same thing happened. And then another hippie came in, and he said, "I'm the ghost of Davy Crockett. I'll put the money in my pocket." Once was this man who was going to have his house built. So he went and he said, "Now I want statues in every room." So in every room, when he came back a month later, had a statue in it. And he said, No, I don't want those." He said, then the carpenter said, "Then what do you want?" He said, "I want something that you pick up and you say, 'Statue?'"
Once I was going in town, and I was going on the subway, and I went to drop a quarter in the slot there, and it rolled onto the ground there. And I went to pick it up, and this man put his foot on it. And I said, "Hey, that's my quarter." And he goes, "You got your name on it?" And I go, "No." So he took it and he ran off. So he was sitting there. Well, he was sitting on the train there. And when he got off at his stop, when he had been reading the paper, and he had a package with him, and he forgot all about the package. So when he got off at his stop, we took the package, and at our stop we got off, and we went into the store, and we opened it up. And guess what was in it? Bologna, just like the rest of the story.
Once the teacher was teaching his class about kindness and goodness. And he said, if you were walking down the street and you saw a man beating up a donkey, what would you call that? And a kid yelled out, brotherly love. Once, everybody went on a bus, and everybody paid except this one boy. And he wouldn't pay. The bus driver said, "You have to pay." "No, I don't." "You have to pay." "No, I don't." "Okay, why don't you have to pay?" "Because my name is Crime, and crime don't pay." Once,
Hello, I'm your host speaking. I got a joke. There was a hotel, and one room was all haunted, and this old man went into it, and he said, "You got a room?" And he says, "Only one room, but it's haunted." And he says, "I'll take it." So he went into the room, and the ghost came out of the closet and says, "I'm the ghost of the black eye." And he said, and so the man jumped out of the window. And next, the lady came, and they said, "Do you have a room?" And he says, "Yeah, but it's haunted." And she says, "I'll take it." So she went up to the room, and the ghost came out, and she says, and he says, "I'm the ghost of the black eye." And she says, and she jumps out of the window. Then next, a little baby comes in. He says, "You got a room?" And the man says, "Yeah, but it's only haunted." And so he goes up there, and the ghost comes out, and he says, "I'm the ghost of the black eye." And the little baby says, "You want another black eye?" And he punches him in the eye. Huh? No. Yeah, I'm done.
One day, Miss Jones was teaching her class how to bake a cake, and she told Joanne to go in and see if the cake was done. And Joanne asked how to do it. Miss Jones said, "Stick in a knife and see if it comes out clean." 5 minutes later, Joanne came back and said, "The knife came out so clean that I stuck in all the dirty ones, too." One day, Susie came home from school and said to her mother, "On the way home, a little girl fell off her seat, and everybody laughed except for me." And Susie's mother said, "That was very nice of you. Who was the little girl?" And Susie said, "I was."
What goes up and never comes down? Your age. What's yellow and is long and lives in the ocean? Moby banana.
There's once these 5 brothers, and they bought this house, and the owner said it's haunted. And the first brother went to the first floor, the other went to the next floor, and all the way up. And then on the first floor, these green gloves came out, picked them up, rolled them up, threw them in the barrel. And then on the second floor, these green gloves came out, took the brothers, rolled them up and threw them in the barrel. And the third floor, the same thing until the 5th floor. And the 5th floor, the youngest brother, he saw the glove and went, "Oh, Playtex gloves."
Once upon a time, there was this rich guy, and he had a maid. And one night he said to the maid, "In the morning I want a scrambled egg." And the maid said, "Okay." So the morning came, and then the guy says, "You dummy, I want a poached egg." So he took a spoon, dipped it in some jelly, and flung it right in her eye. And then the next night, the guy says, I want a poached egg. And the maid says, okay. Morning comes. And the maid says, here's your poached egg. And the guy says, you dummy, I wanted a scrambled egg. So he takes this spoonful of jelly and he flings it right in her eye. And then the night before, he says, I want a scrambled egg. So the maid started thinking, I might as well give him a scrambled egg and a poached egg. Then he won't yell at me. So she gave him a scrambled egg and a poached egg. And the guy comes down. He's looking at the scrambled egg and a poached egg. Dips the spoon in the jelly and flung it right in her eye. And he says, you dummy, you scrambled the wrong egg and you poached the wrong egg. What do you do before you get out of bed? Take your feet off the floor. Once there were these two boys, they went skating, and one of the boys asked the other boys, did anybody crack up when you fell down? And the kid said no, but the ice did.
What goes uphill and downhill but never moves? A road. What's black and white, black and white, black and white, and black and white and green? Four nuns fighting over a pickle.
That's all I... 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Sharon, Sharon, yay, Sharon. We're gonna F-I-G-H-T, we're gonna fight, boys, really fight. We're gonna W-I-N, we're gonna win, boys, really win.
No, Jay, I have a joke for you. They work while they're eating.
I don't know what.
Teeth. When does a cabbage beat a bee?
What?
When it's a head. What kind of umbrella does the president use on a rainy day?
I don't know.
A wet one. You might be raised with good manners.
I don't know that either.
You idiot. Your hat. What the dove did when the hawk came after him?
I don't know.
He dove.
Jason, now I have some riddles for you. Smaller children grow it.
Smaller?
No, taller. Where you'd expect to spend 7 years?
At home.
No, in your teens. What food is produced with straw?
Cows?
No, berries. What do you open when you're hungry?
Food.
No, your mouth. Where are the kings and queens of England crowned, Jason?
In England.
No, on the head. Come in. Excuse me. Oh, what are you playing?
It's poker.
Oh, Fill these three out.
That's right.
You. Fill these three out. Let me see. Pretty good. Have you seen a couple of guys?
No, what they look like.
One's short, one's tall.
Yeah.
Look like you. Yeah.
So other than being aggressive,
Yeah. You guys, don't mind me. Just go on playing.
Go on.
What do you got?
Everything. Look at that.
20.
Shelf. Or is it?
Mind if I deal in?
No, but dealing with.
Wow, interesting. Alright, you want a bit? Go ahead. Hey, what'd you come here for? I don't know. Toy wasn't important. Yeah, it wasn't. Yes, it was. I've been 50. 50. Let me see. What was that I want? Oh well, might as well knock it say. What you got? 2 keys. You lost. Oh well. There's $50 plus one. I don't have it. Oh well. I show you that
Here's a riddle for you, Sally. What's the difference between a mailbox and an elephant?
I don't know.
You don't? Then I'll never trust you to mail my letters.
Doctor, will I be able to read with these glasses you made for me?
Certainly you will, Mr. Shaw.
That's wonderful. I've never known how to read. Mr. B, why is your dog watching me while I eat?
Maybe it's because you're eating out of his dish, Mr. Bumble. What are you doing with the pencil and paper, Mr. Bumble?
I'm writing to my brother. With my little dish. I caught his blood. Who'll make his shred, said the beetle, with my thread and needle. I'll make his shred. Who'll dig the grave? I, said the owl, with my spade and trowel. I'll dig his grave. Who'll be the parson? I, said the rook, with my little book. I'll be the parson. Who'll be the clerk? I, said the lark. I'll say, amen in the dark. I'll be the clerk. Who'll be the chief mourner, said the dove. I mourn for my loves. I'll be the chief mourner. Who'll bear the torch? I, said the linnet. I'll come in a minute. I'll bear the torch. Who'll sing his dirge? I, said the surge. I thirst. As I sing in the bush, I'll sing his dirge. Who'll bear...
Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln lived in a log cabin on a little creek. He lived in a state called Kentucky. He was born on February 12, 1809. He lived with his father, mother, and his older sister, Sarah. Abe had aunts and uncles, but he had a lot of cousins, more than he could count. But they couldn't see each other very often because they lived far away. Abe lived in Knob Creek. Abe wanted a brother or some other boys to play with. Abe had no toys to play with, so his father bought a little toy wagon. Abe sat in a tree stump and waited until his father came home with the wagon. His parents were very poor, but they were able to send Abe to school. On special occasions, they had special meals. One day in school, there were some kids that were making fun of some other kids. Abe got mad and ran away and ran into the woods, so his father went out looking for him. He looked everywhere. He finally found him on a bench in the schoolhouse, sound asleep. One night his father told a story about Abe's grandfather. Abe said that he was named after him. One day Abe went fishing with his sister, but they had no poles or lines or hooks, so what they did was they found a place where the creek was shallow. They stooped over, held their hands in the water, and they caught the fish with their hands. They stood there for a long time, and their arms ached and so did their necks and backs, but they still waited for fish. After a long while, Abe caught a fish. His back was very sore, but he didn't care. Abe grew up to be the 16th President of the United States. In November 1860, bells rang, whistles blew, people shouted, and everyone cheered because Abe was the new president. Abe was happy that he was elected. Mrs. Lincoln had 3 boys, Robert, Willie, and Ted, and they were proud too. They were happy that they were moving to Washington. On February 11th, 1861, there was a special train that left Springfield for Washington. The Lincoln family was on the train. Mr. Lincoln made short speeches when they stopped at different cities. No matter how busy or worried Abe was, he always found time for his boys. When Mr. Lincoln became president, the country was divided. The northern states were called the Union. 6 weeks after inauguration, the Civil War began. In the fall of 1864, Abe was elected president again. In April 1865, the war ended. Abe Lincoln made his famous Gettysburg Address. The little boy from the log cabin became a great president.
George Washington was born on Pope's Creek Farm in Westmoreland County, Virginia, on February 22, 1732. In his family, he had his father, Augustine.
George's first mother was Jane Butler Washington. George's second mother was Mary Ball Washington. George had sisters and brothers. They were Betty, Samuel, John Augustine, Charles, and Mildred. In school, George got good grades. Went to school until he was 14 or 15, then got his education at home. On January 6, 1756, Washington married Mrs. Martha Dandridge Custis. The wedding took place in New Kent County, Virginia, at a place what now is called the White House. In April 1789, Washington was elected the first president, and while he was president, the first cabinet was made. On March 4th, 1797, Washington left office and gave it to John Adams.
Mickey Mantle was born in 1931. His father named him Mickey because of the player he liked on the Philadelphia A's. His name was Mickey Corain. Mickey loved to bat right-handed because he could hit the ball, but when he batted left-handed, he couldn't hit that good. All he did is swing at the air. His father would want him to be a catcher because Mickey Corain was, but he was too fast to be a catcher. Willie Mays was born on May 6, 1931 in Westfield, Alabama. Willie Mays' first toy was a big ball. When he got older, his father brought home other balls. Willie's father played on a semi-professional team around Fairfield, Alabama. His father's nickname was Kitty Cat. They also had a name for Willie, too. Willie ran flat-footed, so they called him Buck Duck. Later, they called him Buck for short. His old friends still call him that. Willie's parents divorced when he was very young, so his Aunt Sarah took care of him. Willie's father worked in a steel mill. When Willie was 16, he was a regular center fielder on his father's team. When Willie tried out for the Black Barons, he made it, but his weakness was hitting curveballs. The manager told him to practice it. Then, by the beginning of the season, he could hit them. After 3 years with the Barons, he got a contract with the Giants.
Bobby Orr was born in Canada in the year 1941. He had 2 sisters and 1 brother. He used to play hockey with the big kids, and he was good. So he went to play hockey on ice, and he was good. So, and Bruins manager went to see another kid on his team to sign him up for the Bruins. But he signed up Bobby O instead.
Tom says ever since he was a boy, he wanted to play in the big leagues. When he was in high school, he wanted to play so much that he went out for the big leagues when he was 19 or 21. So he went to try out for the New York Mets. He went to Jacksonville, Florida. In 1967, he was playing an exhibition game against the Tigers. He kept seeing balls flying through the infield for base hits. Almost every ball that was hit off of him was hit off the wall. But there was no home runs, fortunately. But the coach took him out of the game. He just saw another season at Jacksonville in his head. But next year, he was chosen for the Mets team. He was so happy, and his wife was too. He didn't like the idea of blacks not rooming with whites. He didn't think it was fair. That season, they won the pennant in the World Series, and they were champions. He was paid a great salary. He is still a very famous person and will probably go into the record books.
Joe Namath. Joe plays for the New York Jets. He is a quarterback. He is 5'11" and weighs 195 pounds. He owns an apartment in New York. He also has been in the hospital for 3 leg operations. He is number 12. He has brown hair, blue eyes, and he is a bachelor.
and he is my favorite player on the gym. Florence Nightingale was a very famous nurse. She was sometimes called Angel of Crimea or Lady of the Lamp. She was English, but she was not born in England. She was born in Florence, Italy. Her parents were very wealthy and had 2 homes in England, and they could go traveling whenever they wished. When Florence was a girl, people did not believe in formal education for girls, but she did not want to be a lady of fashion. With her father's help, she became well educated. Then she decided she wanted to study nursing. When she was a little girl, she helped the doctor set a collie's broken leg, but in those days, most nurses were women with no education. Her parents were shocked at the idea of having their daughter being a nurse, but anyway, she went on with her plans. Not long after she became a nurse, she decided to help nurse the wounded soldiers. The war had broken out against Russia. The English soldiers that were wounded were not being well cared for. She had 38 other nurses with her. Soon they were hard at work cleaning up the hospitals and seeing that the wounded soldiers were well cared for. Her and her helpers kept many soldiers from dying. It can be easily seen why they called her the Angel of Crimea and Lady of the Lamp. While she was in the East, she had Crimean fever. She was strong afterwards. Then soon after the war ended, she went back to England, but she did not do any more nursing. She wrote about nursing, and soon she found a school for nursing that was named after her. When she was 87, the King of England ordered her merit for her work, and no woman had ever received this honor before.
Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was born in 1934, outfielder, right-handed hitter, born in Mobile, Alabama. He was with Milwaukee Braves 1954 through 1965. He was with Atlanta Braves 1966 on. He led in home runs National League 1957, 1966, and 1967. Tied for lead 1963 on May 17, 1970. He had 3,000 major league hit and 570 home runs. In September 1973, made 713th home run.
Lucille Ball was born in Jamestown, New York on August 6, 1911. She was barely 4 years old when her father died of typhoid fever. Lucy lived with her mother, Desiree. People often called her Dee Dee. Lucy also has a brother, Freddie, who was born in Ceylon. Lucy's grandfather started Lucy in show business. Lucy also worked as a soda jerk and many other jobs. She played the piano and saxophone. It was 1937 when she started to work steady in show business. As a Goldwyn girl, she had been getting $150 a week, but at Columbia her pay was only half of that. She had hoped that it was a way to better things, but it wasn't until her 15th film when she got her name mentioned on the screen. Even though Lucy was told she had talent, she still got very nervous in front of a camera. Lucy also didn't have any confidence in herself. Lucy met Desi Arnaz in 1940, and it was love at first sight. Desi had a job as a guitarist, and later he became a singer with Exovia Kuget's American band. Eventually, Desi clicked as the leader of his own band. He also began making movies. He also began making movies on November 30th, 1940. Lucy and Desi eloped to Greenwich, Connecticut. Early in 1942, Lucy was between pictures and Desi's band at the Leo State Theater in New York City, dancing, singing, and exchanging funny dialogue. Lucy's hair was brown until they dyed it. Lucy was now making $100,000 for a single motion picture. Lucy wanted to do films with Desi. Around this time, Lucy and Desi developed a vaudeville act and took it on the road. The act included husband-wife situation, comedy as well as dancing, music, jokes, and serious material. The 1950 vaudeville tour, Desi sang Lucy clowned and they did a Cuban dance and traded comic remarks. When CBS agreed to make a TV pilot with Lucy and Desi, there was a frantic scramble to come up with the script. In it, Desi played, of all the things, a Cuban band leader, Ricky Ricardo. Lucy played his wife, Lucy. 4 weeks before the show, called I Love Lucy, was due to start, Lucy gave birth to her first child. Then, the I Love Lucy show turned out to be a big hit. In 1953, Lucy had another baby, a boy. The I Love Lucy shows ran for 6 years with reruns still being shown. Since then, Lucy has done Broadway shows and a new television show called Here's Lucy.
Charles A. Lindbergh, born February 4th, 1902, in Detroit, Michigan, and was brought up in Little Falls, Minnesota. He studied mechanical engineering at the University of Wisconsin in Madison for nearly 2 years. Then he enrolled as a student in Lincoln Flying School in Lincoln, Nebraska. He made an exhibition flying tours over the country, which included wing walking, parachute jumping, and passenger carrying. In 1923, Lindbergh made his first flight in his first plane, a government Jenny. 4 years later, he took off alone from New York City in the spirit of St. Louis and headed toward Paris. Raymond B. Orteg had offered a prize of $25,000 for the first non-stop flight from New York City to Paris. Lindbergh set out to win it. Leaving Roosevelt Field at 7:52 a.m. On Friday, May 20th, 1927, he came to a landing at Le Bourget Field in Paris at 5:24 p.m., 10:24 p.m. Paris time. The next day, he had covered 3,600 miles in 33 hours and 32 minutes. Days of reception followed, during which he was honored and decorated by France, Great Britain, and Belgium. His services in the field of aeronautics brought more medals and awards than ever had been received by any other person in private life.
Ryder Blue in 71 won the American League's Most Valuable Player award and had a 24-rate record in his first full season with the Oakland A's. Last year was no fluke, and he was not going to give up. Ryder's achievements were real and tangible, and the proof is in his records to see and appreciate. There had not been so much action in the box office since Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax had been superstars. Even when Ryder's records went down to 75, the people kept on going to his games. Ryder was the youngest player at the age of 22 to win the Most Valuable Player and only the 5th player to win both the Cy Young Award and the American League Most Valuable Player at the same time. Ryder thinks, however, that there are a lot of other things to learn. He wants to win a pennant for the A's and pitch in the World Series. His overpowering fastball and pinpoint makes him a great pitcher, and the batters don't like the idea of swinging against him. Ryder has maturity and experience going for him, and that should enable him to stand off the pressures. Ryder did not expect his success to come so fast. Stardom remained to be seen from Ryder, and only time will tell whether he will go to the Hall of Fame.
One day, Harriet recovered, but she never completely recovered. There was always a deep scar from where the iron hit her. Also, for the rest of Harriet's life, she never knew when or where she would have strange sleeping spells. When Harriet was well enough to work again, there was a new master. Time went by and she married a man.
Her husband's name was John Tubman. One day, 4 years after she was married, she learned she was going to be sent farther south on a cotton plantation. This was time to escape to go north. 2 of Harriet's brothers were to be sold also. Harriet couldn't say goodbye to anyone, not even her mother or her father. Harriet led the way. Her brothers stopped. They were frightened. The boys whispered together and said they were turning back. They said it was too dangerous. Harriet tried to make them change their minds. Yes, it was dangerous, but wasn't freedom worth the dangers? The brothers turned back. Harriet was alone. Harriet was going north to freedom. Harriet worked. She scrubbed floors. She saved every penny she could. Harriet traveled, bringing people to freedom. Once she brought a family to freedom. There was extra danger in traveling with small children. What if they cried? A slave catcher might hear. Harriet was prepared for this. At night she gave the children medicine which made them go to sleep. Runaway slaves were no longer safe in Philadelphia or any other state up north. A new law stated that slaves had to be sent back to their masters in the South. Anyone who helped the slaves could pay a large fine or go to jail. More and more slaves escaped. More and more people helped the slaves to escape. 5 years later, the Civil War began. Harriet was called Moses. Slaves hoped that Harriet would come. In the slave owners' houses, the slave owners wondered, who is this person called Moses? The Civil War started. For 2.5 years, the war went on. Harriet served as a nurse. Then the war ended. When the war ended, slavery ended. There had been slavery in this country for more than 200 years. Harriet died in Auburn, New York in 1913.
Leonardo da Vinci was born in a Vinci village near Florence in 1452. He was brought up by his grandfather. In 1467, Leonardo entered the Verrocchio studio. This was the same year he became a member of the Painter's Guild. He stayed at Verrocchio for quite a while. In 1478, he became an independent artist under the protection of Lorenzo the Magnificent. In 1482, he left Florence for Milan, where he was to stay for nearly 20 years. From 1500, Florence was Leonardo's home. He traveled a lot, especially in 1502 and 1503, when he inspected and constructed rural fortifications for Senza Borga. In that time, he painted the Mona Lisa, which is one of the most famous paintings in the world. Its secondary title is La Gioconda. All who have been fascinated by the mysterious smile that appears on the sphinx-like face of a lady gazing out from a blue-green landscape. Leonardo returned to Milan. In 1506, it was greeted by the governor. He turned 61 in 1513 when he entered the service of Giuliano de' Medici, brother of Pope Leo. He gave his talents to architecture and engineering projects while he continued the notes on his painting, Francis I of France, who invited him to Amboise in 1517. Leonardo lived in the small tattoo of clocks. He died there in 1519. He was buried in the church of St. Florence, which was wrecked during the French Revolution. Leonardo's learning extended in such a wide fields as physics and physiology and natural history, anatomy, biology, medicine, optics, acoustics, astronomy, botany, geology, flight science,